Chapter 3: The Voodoo Wonderland. What is Voodoo? Voodoo is the African religion adapted to the conditions of the island of Haiti by incorporating the mythological variants in the belief of all the African tribes forming the New World diaspora, and finds its highest expression in Haitian syncretism. The word Vodou belongs to the Fons family linguistics and in Dahomey, Togo, means God or spirit. Some researchers have pinpointed the Gedevi tribe, native inhabitants of the Abome Plateau in Dahomey, as the originator of the word Vodun, which means divine or deity. There are different types of Voduns with different power, position, hierarchy, nature, and temperament. Some are strictly divine, others are simply human. There are different spellings of the word itself, such as Vodun, Vodou, Vaudou, Vodou, Vaudou, Vodou, and Voodoo. The Haitians themselves prefer Vodou, Vodou, and Vodun, Vodoun. We will use mostly the latter two spellings. According to a Dahomean philosopher questioned by Melville Herskovitz, Vodou is an immaterial force existing everywhere. For modern parlance, it is a ubiquitous force existing everywhere in space time. This force can be actualized as space time events, persons, objects, and physical matter, such as urns, rocks, trees, or rivers. This force is not the product of simple imagination, like the Western world would like us to believe, but is an essence of non ordinary realities or alternate realities, manifestation of invisible matter and or quantum dimension of reality that the African intelligence and sensitivity have learned to harness and control. The Voduns are spirit entities or shadow matter entities that have had a long commerce or interaction with human beings. Some would be the shadow matter component of the tripartite human beings. Some appear to be originally from a parallel universe and then have acquired novel characteristics from long interactions with mankind. Their manifestation on the sensory level of existence in our ordinary reality occurs in a sporadic manner most of the time. Some predisposing factors, rituals, and quantum connection must be produced or be in place to allow an eruption from shadow reality to ordinary reality. The Hugan, or Vodou priest, whose name means master of the Vodouns, is the one who has the knowledge to induce a manifestation or eruption in our ordinary reality as possession, adorcism, or channeling. This knowledge would be the equivalent of the science of an experimental physicist in possession of a super collider type of equipment capable of making manifest the existence of a boson or a fermion. The Hugan makes manifest the shadow matter of the Vodun's reality. There seems to exist an, there seems to exist an attraction for the visible world on the part of the shadow world. The entities of the alternate reality crave for the joy, actions, and pleasures of ordinary reality. Let me take that again. The entities of the alternate reality crave for the joy, actions, and pleasures of ordinary reality. Thus, they enter into some association, connection, or covenant with earthlings in order to partake of the bounties of visible matter or ordinary common sense reality. The initiates in the mystery of Vodou see the entities as diversely oriented forces that we must harness to dominate nature or to use for good or evil. For some adepts, these forces are amoral, like all other energies and like all other energy sources in nature, such as the electromagnetic, radio wave, and strong or weak forces. The African diaspora in Haiti was a composite of multiple tribes extracted from different areas of the continent. The majority was from West Africa at the beginning of the slave trade. That is, between the 16th, where am I? The majority was from West Africa at the beginning of the slave trade. That is, between the 16th to the 18th centuries. Toward the end of the 18th century, a larger contingent was coming from Central and Southern Africa, and also from the East Coast. Saint Domingue, the former name of Haiti in colonial time, had received about 30,000 Mozambiques within a period of 20 years. By the time of the French Revolution in 1789, the island had a population of about 465,000 slaves. They were of diverse origin, but with a preponderance of but with a preponderance of West Africans, such as Dahomeans of the tribes Arada, Nago, Ibo, Yoruba, and Ashanti. Some Islamic groups, such as the Peul, Manding, and Bambara, and also people of Bantu origin or culture, such as Congo and Angola. However, the term Bantu encompasses a wide variety of people or tribes, particularly originating in the Zaire basin, located between the division of the Nile River. Is that Nile River? Nile River? Could be Nile. And the Zambezi River, between the division. Okay. That includes Pahuin, Fang, Mangbetu, Zande, Lele, Luba, Lunda, Kuba, and others. According to J. Greenberg, cited by Keys Zerbo, there is some linguistic relationship between the Bantu, Hausa, and the ancient Egyptian, as well as with Songhai and Maasai, revealing a common background, Paleo African in the Neolithic Sahara, from which came the civilization of the Valley of the Nile and the civilizations of the Bantu. The Haitian Vodou is the result of a syncretism between the Dahomean and the Bantu religious systems, with a preponderance of the Dahomean infrastructure. That religion has been the integrative force unifying the different cultures and African ethnics into a new national identity. Syncretism is an archetypal concept in Dahomey religious thinking. It began early as the tendency towards hegemony led the first tribe to the conquest of other territories. In the 6th century AD, the original tribe was Aja or Aja, Adja or Aja. Later on, it split into two factions. One is known as the Aladahonu. It became the ancestors of a very strong Dahomean kingdom in the 17th century. They created their own ancestral religion with two main Voduns, Aiza and Agasu. Then they deified their king Aja under the name of Ajahunto. Having taken as their abode the lands of other indigenous tribes, they incorporated in their forming pantheon Aida, the Vodun of the land, Alada. Then Wewe, Gede, after vanquishing the Gedevi and Dan Aido Wedo, a Vodun of the Jinu tribe. With the conquest of Savi, the serpent of Wida, known as Dambe, was included in the serpent of Wida, known as Dambe, was included in the pantheon. With that incorporation came some nefarious practices, such as human sacrifices and the slave trade. Between 1650 and 1708, they occupied completely the Abome Plateau. Their fourth king, Agaja, introduced another powerful deity by the name of Sapata, Sakpata. His successor, Tebesu, adopted the cult of the divinities, Mawulisa and Hevioso. These Voduns were introduced into Dahomey by Huanjele, a priestess mother of the king. She was to be deified after death and is known in Haiti today under the name of Wanguile. When the Dahomean annexed Jekin, Djekin, they accepted two new Voduns from that land, Akuluba and Bade. the Nago of Yoruba people has exerted a great influence on the religious thinking of the Abomean people. Some prominent Voduns came from the Yoruba, such as Legba, the interpreter, than can translate, I think that should be, um, that can translate messages received in the dialects of the tribal gods. He is known as the trickster Ogun, the warrior god and patron of the blacksmiths or ironworkers. He is from a royal line of Oyo and Ife in Yoruba land. Some modern historians, such as Jean Plia, place the Dahomean religions on the same trajectory, Dahomean religions on the same category as that of ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Some modern historians, such as Jean Plia, place the Dahomean religions on the same category as that of ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. He wrote, "We should not confuse them with sorcery. The Christian missionaries have given us an exact presentation of these traditional religions, even though they have condemned them without discrimination and have destroyed artifacts such as the masks. The supreme couple of the Dahomean pantheon is Lisa and Mawu. They would be they would be a variant version of Osiris and Isis. However, they come from the Yoruba or Nago pantheon, where they are known as Osala and Yemowo. But in the four language of the Dahomean, those names have been abbreviated into Lisa and Mawu. According to Kizerbo, Kizerbo, they represent respectively the sun and the moon. Below them are an array of lesser gods acting as vectors of the supreme deities in their actions on earth, and they are specialized in different sectors of reality. They are the Voduns. Those Voduns were divided into three groups: the Voduns of heaven, the Voduns of the earth, and the Voduns of thunder and the sea. These Olympian gods were not currently served by the masses, but by a minority of initiates. The rituals for the familial and personal deities were the most common. The cosmogony of the Dahomean began with a creator named Nanabuluku. The cosmogony of the Dahomean began with a creator named Nanabuluku, with a creator named Nanabuluku, who by nature is an androgyne. From him emanated Mawu and Lisa, who are twins, or Marasa, and they are also spouses. Then came Ogu, or Gu, who was a force like the demiurge Ra of the Egyptian. Ogu is used by Mawu to transform the universe, to bring order out of chaos. Ogu is then the intelligence at work in the world. He is the god of civilization and has revealed metallurgy to men. Then came the Voduns of the earth. The first one is Sapata, who begat Zoji and the non-identical twins Nyawe, Ananu, and also Sogbo, or So, an androgynous Vodun. All of them participate in the government of planet Earth. Sogbo begat Hevioso, the thunder god, whose symbols are a ram and a double-edged axe. But according to Lelas Desqueron, Hevioso is a generic name under which many gods are assembled. They are divided into two groups. One group deals with thunder and the other deals with the sea. There exists a perpetual tension between the Voduns of the earth and that of thunder and rain. Sobo is the master of the rain. Also belonging to the Hevioso pantheon are Agbe, Agbe, Agoe in Haiti, and Naete, Vodus of the sea, Age the hunter, and Jo, the Vodu of the air or the breath of life. The priests of the Hevioso pantheon will come up with variants in the Dahomean cosmogony. For them, Sogbo is also a supreme god, but a hidden god, indifferent to the affairs of men, like the Haitian Bon Dieu, as we will see later. As far as the creator is concerned, one can see monotheism in Dahomean theology. It speaks of Mawu as the creator instead of Nanabuluku, who is too distant and unfamiliar to the masses. The Voduns are intermediates between Mawu and mankind, a role similar to that of the Christian Messiah, the saints, and the angels, archangels, and cherubim in the Judeo-Christian tradition. We will see later how this characteristic will facilitate another syncretism with the Catholic religion in Haiti. Side by side with the official pantheon existed another popular hierarchy of deities, or Voduns, forming the ancestral cult. It established a privileged commerce between the clan and the sacred, between the secular and the religious, and maintained cohesion within the mystical body of the clan. The beginning of the clan has a fantastic aspect that is similar to the phenomenon reported in Genesis chapter 6 in the Judeo-Christian Bible, before the great flood of Noah's time, when men, Genesis 6 1 to 4 reads, "When men began to multiply on earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of heaven saw how beautiful the daughters of man were, and so they took for their wives as many of them as they chose. At that time appeared the Nephilim on earth, as well as later, after the sons of heaven had intercourse with the daughters of men, who bore them sons. They were the heroes of old, the men of renown." After the creation of Mawu, men did not show much creativity, and the population of the world was very scant. Lisa and Ogu had to intervene to teach some basic sciences in metallurgy and agriculture. Then came other supernatural beings, probably from the shadow matter realm. They emerged from the slopes of mountains, from the clouds with the rain, from the local trees, from the bottom of the rivers, and from subterranean abodes, They materialized as men and had intercourse with women. From those unions came the progenitors or founders of clans. Having boundary constraints, the supernatural beings could spend only a limited period of time in the visible world. So before their departure, they gave instructions to their sons about their unusual conception, taught them their roles as heads of the clans, revealed to them the secret of the sacred objects, talismans, magic wands, the elementary taboos, and the service of the Voduns and deified ancestors. The Dahomean Nephilim were named Towiyo, Towyo. The Dahomean Nephilim were named Towiyo. At the origin of the kingdom of Dahomey, we found Abibonu, the daughter of the king of Tado, who, who following intercourse with a male panther of the realm of shadow matter, had two sons. One of the sons was Agasu. The latter, with his son Lande, contributed to the glory of Tado. The ethnic scarifications with long lines on the cheek are the hallmarks of the panther ancestor. The teachings received by the Towiyo, Nephilim, can be acquired only through initiation and maturity. This is an esoteric knowledge jealously kept by the elders to prevent malefic action against the clan and to maintain their sway over the younger generations. The oldest senior of the clan, who has the deepest initiatory knowledge, is the Henugan. He is like a vicar of the mythical founder of the clan. His close contact with that psychionic shadow matter entity put his life in constant danger, and he does not live long because of his composite state with the Vodun. An archetypical syncretic Vodun in the Dahomean theology is Dambadawedo. He is the incarnation of the forgotten ancestors. In that sense, he is the counterpart of Aida Huedo, of the official religion representing all the ancient creator gods before Mawu. Death is not the end of the individual like it was in early Judaism. Thou art dirt, and into dirt thou shalt return, and is in modern scientific thinking. The tripartite nature of man, whose composition includes visible matter, shadow boson, and quanta, allows the survival of the souls in such a manner Let's take that again. The tripartite nature of man, whose composition includes visible matter, shadow boson, and quanta, allows the survival of the souls in such a manner that the departed ones are not really departed to the never land, but are still present among the living and require some attention. Their offspring call on them in moments of need or despair, on occasions such as marriage, a long journey, or the troublesome period of puberty. The ancestors are contacted through a simple service or ritual similar to the worship at home called puja in Hinduism. The offerings and sacrifices may consist of a rooster, beans, and corn flour. Besides these puja like sacrifices, the ancestors need the great cyclical rituals with a large family reunion. According to Melville Herskovitz, the ancestors, like their living descendants, love banquets that give them opportunities to dance, eat, and drink with the members of their clan. On these occasions, they enter into composite state or possession of the younger members of the family. No profound initiation is needed to facilitate the crisis of possession of the youth. Only protective rituals are performed to protect them from ill effects coming from the composite state with shadow matter. Immediately after death, the shadow matter of a departed one is a dangerous entity that must be sent away with proper rituals. The descendants don't call on them at that time in moment of need. Every 3 years every 3 years in the Dahomean liturgy, rituals of expedition are performed to establish a secure place for the dead in the netherworld. It was only after 10 years that a ritual of deification or canonization is performed to elevate the deceased one to the status of Vodou or Tovodou. It was only after 10 years that a ritual of deification or canonization is performed to elevate the deceased one to the status of Vodou or Tovodou. The second root of African religion implanted in Haiti comes from the Bantu background, particularly from the Bakongo. That culture also has conceptualized the existence of a supreme god named Nzambi, who is not as distant and indifferent as the Nanabuluku of the Dahomean. He is always present in the affairs of the living as imminent justice. There are no special rituals or services devoted to the supreme god. All the rituals are directed to the good ancestors, Vodouns named Bakulu, who are intermediary between human beings and the supreme god. However, the knowledge to deal with Bakulu comes from Nzambi himself through revelations. The imminent justice of Nzambi is at the core of ethics in Vodou. The notion of good and bad lies in there. Nzambi intervenes in everyday life to punish incest by epidemics, drought, famine, and barrenness in women. Adultery is punished by a specific disease called Kesa that affects the guilty parties as well as their children, a disease that causes a gastroenteritis like disease with vomiting, flatulence, and diarrhea. To stop the chastisement of Nzambe, the authorities of the clan request public confession or capital punishment. There is no pro- propitiatory right. There is no propitiatory right. Interesting word. However, the good and bad deeds in this life do not determine the fate of the soul in the afterlife within Zambi. The supreme god does not intervene in the post-mortem status of the individual. The supreme god does not intervene in the post-mortem status of the individual. This aspect of existence is under the control of the deceased ancestors, the Bakulu. The wicked and the immoral are excluded from their abode by the good ancestors. Thus, the excluded souls become Baka, obnoxious wandering ghosts. The abode of the ancestors is still on earth. The clan structure of the Bakongo is an entity composed of the society of the living in prolongation with the society of the deceased ancestors. They intertwine to form a mystical clan with two faces. This is the true foundation of the Bakongo religion, with the dominance of the Bakulu cult. Later on in Haiti, the true Bakulu will require a new meaning. It is used today to designate a malevolent person, a deceiver. It has replaced the Bakongo term matebo or tebo, equivalent of a baka or demon spirit. The use of occult power in a nefarious manner is what constitutes dark magic in the Bakongo tradition. The same shadow force or entity, invisible entity, can be exploited for a good cause as well as criminal purpose, so that the boundaries between dark and white magics are very blurred. However, the Bakongo people use the devious shadow entities for bad deeds, namely the Matebo or Tebo and the Inkita. The latter are the souls of people who died of violent death, such as in war, suicide, or murder. In Haiti, these types of obnoxious shadow entities are acolytes, with some other violent vaudoos and the practices of the secret societies, such as the Zobop, the Sampuel, and the Vlandimbing. In the Bakongo perspective, the magic has a composite orientation. A positive aspect is reached when one uses the Nkita for protection or to ward off malevolent actions from enemies. A negative aspect exists when one uses the Matebo to destroy good people or innocent individuals. One of the major contributions of the Bakongo to the Dahomean religion in Haiti is that of the Nkisi, called fetish by the Europeans. The Nkisi is essentially a psychionic condenser that is an object endowed with an accumulation of shadow force of Matebo origin. The owner of the artifact Nkisi has dominance over the shadow force of the Matebo or the Nkita. The priest leading the service to the respected and benevolent ancestors Bakulu is not allowed to bring into the sanctuary any Nkisi artifacts or fetish. Thus, before modern science has allowed man to harness the forces of ordinary matter manifested as electromagnetic fields, radio waves, infrared, and X rays to create electronic gadgetry, the natives of Africa have discovered techniques to harness and control manifestations of dark matter or invisible matter. Goodness gracious. Thus, before modern science has allowed man to harness the forces of ordinary matter, manifested as electromagnetic waves, radio waves, infrared, and X rays, to create electronic gadgetry, the natives of Africa have discovered techniques to harness and control manifestations of dark matter or invisible matter. Later on, we will see how far in this knowledge of the parallel universe the Africans and their descendants in Haiti are. Before the discovery of electronics, all the concepts behind our technological achievements in the 20th century would be classified as magic. A remote control to open the garage door, to turn on and off the television set or radio, and to open or lock a car is nothing but a inkisi. With picture tell, we can have a video conference between an American Indian tribe in the United States and an Aboriginal tribe in Australia facing a magic box or TV set. The concept of transmitting the copy of a document through space time by facts would be ascribed to the deepest magic. Thus, the Tovodu, no, the Tovoduno or the Boko using the Inkisi is just ahead of us in shadow matter technology and quantum manipulation. Wow. Thus, the Tovoduno or the Boko is or the Boko using the Inkisi is just ahead of us in shadow matter technology and quantum manipulation. Let's be honest with ourselves. We do not understand the fine details of quantum manifestations or the very nature of the forces of nature, such as gravitation, gluon, and the like. We don't know those things in their essence while we are using their revealed properties to create wonder in our civilization. Likewise, the Tovoduno or Voduno, using the shadow forces and psychotronics to creating Kisi, does not know all the physiology of the alternate realities. Thus, for the Bantu technocrat in Vodou alternate reality, the Nkisi is an artifact or gadget containing a force, an energy field from the shadow matter dimension, or a spirit in the common parlance. That force is under the command of a man, the man who possesses the Nkisi. This is the opposite of the repository conception, in which shadow matter entities dwell by their own choosing in trees, rocks, stones, rivers, and ponds. These natural abodes are resting places for the spirits. The Bakongo practitioner has received an initiatory knowledge allowing him to capture a shadow matter entity and to imprison him into the artifact in Kisi, like we use modern knowledge to create batteries, generators, and the like. And Kisi can be created with a small statue of a human or animal, a sack, a vase, a shell, etc. Relying on one type of technology like we are doing in our 20th century civilization can be detrimental at times. A power failure in a city can create havoc in many aspects of life. Likewise, the voodooist who relies entirely on the shadow matter technology can run into serious difficulties. Those in Kisi can be very specific or hold many purposes depending on the technology applied in their composition. In Haitian culture, they are called wanga. Some are created to enhance fecundity in women. Fecundity? I don't know what that word is. To ease the pain of childbirth, to increase agricultural products, and the fishing loads. Some are created for therapeutic measures only. Others act against the ndoki or wangate or boko in Haitian terminology. Boko. The latter are perpetrators of malevolent acts against other people. Some Nkisi blocks the Nkisi of the malevolent practitioner or destroys the practitioner himself. In the production, a Nkisi enters a quantum connection. A shadow matter entity is inserted or captured inside the Nkisi artifact. That entity is taken from a riverbed, lake, or pond, a natural abode of the souls of deceased people. The, the clay from the riverbed that has been in contact with the shadow matter entity carries with it a holographic fraction of the entity and behaves like the whole entity in attacking the enemy. However, for the Inkisi or Wanga to be effective, an amplitude modulation must be induced to reinforce the power of the energy parcel. The syncretism that combines elements of the Dahomean infrastructure with concepts of Bantu origin give us a new national entity, as well as a variant of the African religion, the Haitian Vodou. The various entities or Voduns of the Dahomean pantheons and the Bakongo worldview will be realigned into three groups or Nanchons. Nanchon is a Creole word for nation or family of Vodou or Loa. The word Loa of Congo origin is the most frequently used in Haiti to designate a being of the alternate reality. The African Haitian religion of Vodou is composed of three pantheons. The Rada pantheon, the most prestigious one, contains the Loa of the Dahomean infrastructure. The fundamental principles and core rituals of Haitian Vodou religion come from the Rada liturgy. The initiation rite, which is like a baptism of the new adept or Huntsi, is called Kanzo. This is conducted according to the Dahomean ritual, the Desunin ritual, which is the separation of Loa from the remains of the adept, follows the same liturgy. This is the disruption of the quantum connection or the composite state between an indwelling spirit and the deceased. The separation is accomplished when the Loa is reassigned to another member of the family, usually a son or a daughter. From that election on, will lead a symbiotic life with the Vodou. The Rada pantheon is supposed to represent the peaceful, benevolent aspect of the forces that are the Vodouns. The Petro pantheon manifests the tumultuous, bellicose, forceful, and dangerous aspect of the deities. The Congo pantheon also represents the nefarious, destructive, and dark magic aspect of the forces. The major Loa or Vodouns of the Rada pantheon have a Dahomean or Yoruba origin. Agasu, the Nephilim-like ancestor, or Toiwo, of the cessationist clan Aja, inaugurated the Dahomean kingdom. He is the offspring of the shadow matter entity, a panther, and Abibonu. a princess. However, in Lilas Disqueron's presentation of the Vodun, Agasu is the panther himself, and during the possession, the hands of the adept are curled up like claws. In Haiti, he is associated with the aquatic Loa. Let's see. Okay. Ayizan is the Vodou of Aladahonu, a separatist clan of the Aja tribe. He became their tutelary deity, leading them to independence following internecine struggle. Internecine, what's that mean? He became their tutelary deity, leading them to independence following internecine struggle. Internecine is a struggle between two groups that is detrimental to both sides, apparently. Right. His repository tree or symbol is the palm tree. He's the presiding Loa in the marketplaces and protector of the merchants. He plays an important role in the initiation ritual of the Hunsi Kanzo. Right. Bosu, Trois Cornets, Three Horns Bosu, was an ancestral Loa of the royal family in Tohosu land, who was a deformed offspring and was canonized as a sacred monster, or Tososu. The cult of Bosu no longer exists in Dahomey. Azaka, of royal origin also in Tohosu land, was transformed into an astute peasant in Haiti. He's usually dressed with a typical gros bleu or denim, carrying a bandolier and smoking the kashimbo or earthen pipe. There exists a variety of this lower Azaka voodoo, Azaka mede, and Azaka si. Wangwile, of royal origin, mother of the king Tebesu, or a priestess or mambo. Where am I? A priestess or mambo was canonized as voodoo after death. Gede was lower of the netherworld, Hades, or realm of the dead. He belonged to a tribe that was displaced by the Fons, invaders of the Abome region. Abome. His personality has been subjected to many avatars by the psychic option of the adepts. However, Gede is primarily a generic name, a family of Loa governing the kingdom of death. They should not be confused with the souls of the deceased or the wandering obnoxious spirits called Baka or Tebo. They are more clown like in actions and demeanor. We can mention Gede Brave or Brave, Gede Brave, Gede Doble, Gede Fatras, Gede Nibo, Gede Tipete, Gede Zi Araigne, Spider Gede, and Gede Tiwawa. There is a subgroup of Gede called Barons that are more on the tragic side of life. They form a triad under the name of Baron Samedi, Baron Lacroix, and Baron Cimetière. A family Gede by the name of Grand Brigitte is presented as the spouse of Baron Samedi. Gede Nibo is considered by some adepts as the head of the Gede family. He reigns over the cemetery and the Boko, who wants to use the soul of a dead person to cast a spell, must obtain from Gede the permit to do so. He reigns over the cemetery, and the Boko who wants to use the soul of a dead person to cast a spell must obtain from Gede Nibo the permit to do so. Interesting. Ogu himself, as a generic name, also with an array of personalities such as Ogu Badagri, a god of war and master of thunder and storm. In the sanctuary of Humfo, his symbol is a sword stuck on the ground before the altar. Ogu Shango is also a deity of storm and thunder. Ogu Balingjo is a deity of the sea and captain of the great Agwe ship. Ogu Batala is a voodoo of Yoruba origin. Ogufarai is a blacksmith. Legba is also a generic name with about 16 different personalities. His principal nature is interpreter of the Voduns. In the quantum world, like that of the Loas, communication by telepathy would be standard between the deities. But for some unknown reason, Legba interprets messages for the various Voduns coming from different tribes. Interesting. Legba interprets messages for the various Vodus coming from different tribes. He plays the same function between humans and Voduns. He can be seen as a telepathic panpsychic connection. All services or rituals to the Loa must begin by an invocation to Legba to open the door of communication between the two realities. He has been compared to Saint Peter, the guardian of the key of the kingdom in Catholicism. He is also the guardian of the doors and fences around houses and road intersections. The practitioner of dark magic must also call on him to perform their nefarious deeds and for exorcism. In Dahomey, he was a flamboyant trickster, but in Haiti, his avatar is that of an old, decrepit man in rags, smoking a cachimbo, a sack on his shoulder, and walking awkwardly on crutches. For this, he is nicknamed Legba Pied Cassé, the broken leg Legba. However, a Legba superposition or composite state is a violent crisis of possession. It is a sudden, brutal eruption of a force in an adept. The possessed often resists this brutal penetration of the Loa in his person. The struggle can be mistaken for a grand mal seizure and can be truly an epileptic seizure induced by the surge of magnetism in the person's nervous system. At times, the possessed may be struck down immobile like the victim of a lightning bolt. The most often cited Legba are Atibon Legba, Legba Avadra, the Wanderer, Legba Mai Kalfu, Master or Guardian of Road Intersections, Legba Mai Bitation, Master of Plantations or Farms, Vie Legba, Old Legba, and Legba Si. Dambala Wedo, known in Dahomey as Dambada Wedo, was an archetype of the clan with a serpent as a symbol and white artifacts as paraphernalia. Aida Wedo, known in Africa as Aida Wedo. Let me highlight that so you can see the spelling. Was the synthetic figure of all the forgotten creators in Dahomean cosmogony. In Haiti, she is the spouse of Dambala, and her symbol is also the serpent. They are present in all important rituals such as the Hunsi initiation and the consecration of the mammoth drum called Asoto, inhabited by a spirit. In Haiti, their reality has been transformed into a more anthropomorphic couple with a dramatic love life. Also, they belong to the realm of the white aquatic Vauduns. In the Humfor sanctuary, a basin filled with water is usually placed near the altar at their disposal. The rainbow or celestial serpent is also their symbol. A close encounter or possession by these Vodou recreates the behavior of a serpent. The possessed crawls with serpentine motion on the ground, climbs on trees and on roofs, and then goes down headfirst like a boa constrictor. Dambala does not speak, he whistles, and his utterances must be interpreted by another Loa, Legba, or Ogun. Sobo, brother of Bosu Trakorne, is the god of thunder like an Ogu and the deity of the meteorites falling from heaven. Those meteorites were used by the Indians to create axes. Today, they are used as symbols of the Loa or cyclonic condenser like the Inkisi. Bade, inseparable companion of Sobo, is the Vodun of wind and storms. He shares this function with Agau, shadow entity of tempest. A composite state with Agau is extremely violent. The eruption of that force in a person can be so brutal that it can cause sudden death. Those who can sustain this assault utter Those who can sustain this assault utter sounds reminiscent of thunder and tempest. They are like God's bombardier. When they rumble, the heavens shake, so they say. Agoué, Vodun of the sea, is the Neptune equivalent. The name in Dahomey is Agbe or Agboe. In Haiti, he is also known as Agoué Taroyo and is a mulatto. A great service or ritual for Agoué takes place at sea in a boat. The offerings are thrown into the waters, food, strings, live white lambs or white chickens attached to a miniature boat. The people in superposition state with Agoe usually plunge into the sea and swim toward the shore while in a trance, unaware of their action. Loco, a Haitian Asclepios, can reveal the secrets of plants for medicinal purposes or poisoning. He is the master of the sanctuary or Humfo and the patron of the Hugan. Two variants of this axionic entity are known. Adan Loco from Weme in Dahomey and Loco Atisu from the Hula. A composite state with Loco is not violent. He smokes the earthen pipe and walks with a peasant's cane. Erzuli or Erzili is a very popular feminine deity in Haiti. Her name is a generic name comprising about 25 different personalities. According to Pierre Verger, the Erzuli name came from Azili or Aziri, Vodun, Jeje, Vodun Jeje of Bahia, Dahomey. Some entities go by that name also in the Petro and Congo pantheon. The most common one in the Rada pantheon are Erzili Frida Dahomey, Mertres Erzili, Erzili Doba, and Gran Erzili. Erzuli is a shadow matter Aphrodite, presented as a beautiful mulatto. She is also a divinity of the sea, but she prefers to evolve in the realm of feminine beauty and coquettish affairs. A channeling state with Erzuli leads the man or the woman into a flirtatious romp. She is a femme fatale who has had affairs with Dambala Wedo, so she is the rival of Aida Wedo, and liaisons with Ague Tarayo and Ogu Badagri. Gede Nibo has been trying to get lucky with her without success because she does not like dark skinned people. She is prejudiced, but the Haitians don't take her prejudice seriously as it is more of a clownish attitude. The Petro Pantheon has contributed in part to the infamous reputation given the Vodou religion by the Western world and exploited to great extent by Hollywood. The Loa of this pantheon are not as benevolent, serene, or amusing like the Rada group. They are the violent ones that induce dangerous, lethal state of trance and give momentum to dark magic. According to Alfred Metro, the word Petro suggests an idea of brutal force, callousness, and ferocity. All magical spells are under their control. Desquaron cautioned that not all of them are bad. Many are helpful and decent, particularly the healers among them. And what is very important for the Black Republic is their role in the independence war of the nation against the colonial superpower, France. Let me take that again. Many are helpful and decent. That is the Petro. Let me go from here. According to Alfred Metro, the word Petro suggests an idea of brutal force, callousness, and ferocity. All magic spells are under their control. Desquiron cautioned that not all of them are bad. Many are helpful and decent, particularly the healers among them. And what is very important for the Black Republic is their role in the independence war of the nation against the colonial superpower, France. They were at the forefront in the struggle for liberation. The Creole Loa belongs to that group. They are indigenous Vodouns, born or created in the island proper. This is the open compartment of that alternate reality, where individual and family, by proper ritual, can elevate the shadow entity of the deceased relative to the status of Vodun. The reality in that parallel universe depends to a great extent on the options of the living. The Chonian, Chthonian, wow, the Chonian or dark side of the Olympian Rada, Vauduns, belong also to that pantheon according to Alfred Metro. This comparison may be more than just a figure of speech. There is a possibility that the subterranean world, or the Chonian realm, is the confines of the dark matter entities, that is, all the lower named Rada, Petro, and Congo. There are no extraterrestrial beings among them. None are from outside the solar system. The supernatural beings that materialized on Earth after Mawu, Lisa, and Ogu came from the Chonian abodes, emerging from the slopes of mountains, from the bottom of rivers, some from the trees, and others from the clouds with rain. It is highly probable that the ones from the clouds came originally from the subterranean abode. The Greco-Roman mythology places the realm of the deads in the subterranean location, and Judaism of the first century places Abraham's bosom, hell, and Gehenna inside the earth. The apocalyptic bottomless pit where Satan is bound for 1,000 years is located in the Chonian dimension, Revelation 22 to 3. Some of the Bantu Loa belong to that pantheon. In fact, most of the petrol rituals have non Dahomean hallmarks. The Congo has played a prominent role in the elaboration of the Petro liturgy. The essence, the influence of the Congo has been the interwoven of demonic, nefarious dark magic into a Dahomean infrastructure. In the northern regions of Haiti, the Petro pantheon is designed by the Congo word lemba, which means to appease. Thus, in Africa as well as in Haiti, their rituals are performed with the purpose of appeasing those dangerous dark matter entities. Don Petro or Don Petro, Pedro, Petro or Pedro, is the name of a powerful Hugan in colonial time at Saint Domingue, who apparently was a great leader in the formation of this pantheon and its rituals. He was canonized as Vaudou after his death. Moreau de Saint-Méry reported the existence in 1768 at Petit Guave of a black man who was originally from a Spanish colony who could be our Don Petro. He inaugurated a very fast dance that could facilitate the trance induction in the composite state of possession, not only of one person, but of a whole assembly of spectators and voodooists. In contemporary service, Pedro, is a very mighty axionic force that is received in a sanctuary with the detonation of cannon powder. Don Pedro was also psychic, gifted with clairvoyance. His connection with other shadow matter entities could modulate his own wave function. Wow. One second. Don Pedro was also psychic. Let me see, what did they say about his dance? He inaugurated a very fast dance that could facilitate the trance induction and the composite state of possession, not only of one person, but of a whole assembly of um, spectators or voodooists. All voodooists. In contemporary service, Don Pedro is a very mighty axionic force that is received in a sanctuary with detonation of cannon powder. Don Pedro was also psychic, gifted with clairvoyance. His connection with other shadow matter entities could modulate his own wave function so that through ubiquity he could see events at a distance beyond solid walls. Tijan Petro is the son of Don Petro. He also has a bad reputation as a demonic voodoo. Petro, Jé Rouge, Red Eyes Petro, is another malevolent shadow being. The red eyes are characteristics of sorcerers. However, this trait is frequently seen in black people in Haiti. Many alcoholics have red eyes, and some hypertensive patients have this presentation. Thus, People must be cautious about labeling someone as a sorcerer. Tijan Pie Cheche is a devilish midget with one leg. Most of the Loa presented with that description fall into the category of demonic spirits. The other leg was subjected to a process of atrophy. They are very bitter with criminal disposition. Such is Marinette Pie Cheche, one of the most feared deities of the Petro family. She is a devil bent on destruction and mayhem. Her symbol or avatar is that of an owl. In Haiti, her presence is always a sign of bad omen, or people think that a bad spirit has materialized into the appearance of the ugly bird. When Marinette Pied enters into channeling with an adept, the latter mimics the behavior of the owl. Marinette is revered by the loup garou, Dracula type of adept that has the ability to be metamorphosed into a force or a lycanthrope. At night she wanders in the forests in search of bad deeds, and it is there that her servants bring her offerings that are deposited in secret places. She wants to eat alone because she is selfish and stingy. Haitians in general don't like to talk about those demonic vaudoons. They prefer to talk about the benign vaudoos of the Rada pantheon. They want to establish a distance between themselves and the practitioners of the dark arts that they call boko, or sorcerers. Their respectable priests are called Hugan. The practice of the dark arts requires a special initiation, and it is a very mysterious occult type of undertaking. The voodooist, who is not serving with two hands, that is practicing magic, always needs some protection against the menaces of the secret societies of evildoers. The voodooist who is not serving with two hands, in quotes, that is practicing magic, always needs some protection against the menaces of the secret societies of evildoers. Along with Marinette Pied come other nefarious entities such as Criminal Petro, Grand Bois Lillet, Baron Piquant, Kita Cheche, Brisset, and Lucifer. It is very startling to see that Lucifer does not occupy the high ranking position that he has in the Judeo Christian alternate reality. It is very startling to see that Lucifer does not occupy the high ranking position that he has in the Judeo Christian alternate reality. He is just one of the Diab, or demons. Diab. Then come the Loa Terreau, bull vaudoons, roaring or bellowing spirits that are very savage. Taro Beloku, Erzuli Taro, Toro, and Toro Trois Grains with three testicles. They provoke some very rough crisis of possession. Loa Cabinet is a fiendish shadow entity that provokes very violent composite connection. The possessed is dressed in red and performs very dangerous jumps. Cabinet is very bitter and cynical. However, he has the power to use to deliver someone spellbound by a baka, a malevolent wandering spirit. However, he has the power to use. Let me see. Let me take this from here again. Loa. Loa Cabinet is a fiendish shadow entity that provokes very violent composite connection. The possessed is dressed in red and performs very dangerous jumps. Cabinet is very bitter and cynical. However, he has the power to use to deliver someone spellbound by a baka, a malevolent wandering spirit, or a matebo dispatched by an enemy. He fits very well the description of the biblical Lucifer, who is the enemy of God, and as such avoids even mentioning the name of the Almighty God, of the Almighty, wants to keep his distance, although he recognizes God as his creator. But he did not ask to be created. Too bad. Other very dangerous entities of the Petro family are the dark side of the Rada pantheon, such as Erzuli Ke Noir, Dark Heart Azuli, Erzuli Mapiang, Erzuli Kalika, Erzili Erzili, Bomba, Legba Petro, Legba Piekase, Legba Sinyang Gnang, Ogu Petro, Ogu Nyansan, Dambala Flangbo, and Mai Pemba. The latter is called Nkadi Mpemba by the Bakongo in Loango and in San Salvador is the equivalent of Satan. The Haitian king Henry Christophe has baptized the colossal cannon on top of the citadel stronghold, Mampemba. His citadel, Mampemba. This cannon was assumed to be capable of destroying any French armada sent against the new nation of Haiti. To that list can be added Lemba, Zau, Bakulu, Baka, mischievous spirit, Kita Kita, Baye Tikita, derived from the Bantu in Kita, wandering malevolent spirits, and the Simbi, Simbi Yankita, Simbi Dlo, Simbi Lo Yaye, oh, Obagalelo Yaye. It's a song by that name. Simbi Dlo, Water Simbi, and Grand Simba, Desqueron. Oh, Desqueron, 196 to 197. Grand Simba, right. The wandering baka can take the appearance of cats, dogs, pits, bulls, or weird looking monsters. They usually try to scare people to death, but don't attack them directly. The best way to handle their presence is to stare fiercely at them and they walk away or vanish. The Simbi, in general, are aquatic vaudoons, guardians of the springs and ponds. They are well known for their abduction of young children with light skin, mulatto type, while they are collecting water at a spring or river. The children are taken underwater in the aquatic or subterranean abode of the Simbi vaudoons, where they work as servants. After some years, the Simbi send them back to the surface of the earth with the gift of clairvoyance. This is an extreme case of translation to a parallel shadow matter universe. The third family of Vaudoons from the Congo pantheon per se. The third family of Vaudoons form the Congo pantheon per se. They are divided into the seashore Congo or Congo Nabodme and Congo of the savannah, Congo Savanne. The first group is depicted as being more civilized, being from the shoreline where business is booming and human interaction flourishes. They are supposed to be light skinned people, métis. The Congo Savanne Vaudoons are more pleasant, and they know the magical properties of plants. They are also grouped under the generic name of Zando or Zando. The Zandoric group contains Kaplao, Mandongwe, Kangabum, Bomba, and Kita. Tijan Zandor is also known as Prince Zandor, and Tijan Pied Fin and Tijan Pied Sec have Marinette Pied Caché as mistress. Prince Zandor is a literal demon or devil with cannibal orientation. He is described as a man dressed in red who goes hopping on one leg and climbs on the palm tree to survey the roads in search of victims. When he sees one, he jumps on him or her and devours the person. The services in honor of these Loa are performed in open space in the countryside far away from the city dwellers. Non-initiates cannot attend these ceremonies without special permission and protection. In the area are erected a tonnel, an open tent with thatched roof, and a central pillar. This central pillar is called potomitan, but in the Zandoric cult, it is called poto de membre, or destroying pillar. A big fire is ignited and maintained with salt and gasoline. The boko provokes possession in the assembly by touching adepts with a red scarf. The evil Loa, speaking through his quantum connection, recounts his bad deeds and his cannibalism. Next, the boko and the possessed walk into the raging flame, roll over the incandescent fire, and step on the burning charcoal until they extinguish the fire with naked feet. They don't get burned as long as they're in a superposition state with the dark matter entities. This is followed by animal sacrifices to the deities. The chicken feathers are plucked while the bird is still alive, with the determined purpose of causing suffering. Other animals, such as a goat, a pig with black color, are also chosen as living sacrifices. After the butchering, the animals are buried in a pit. It is said that the goat and the pig are usually a human being metamorphosed into animal by the occult power of the Zandoric deity transferred to his adept. This claim of the alternate reality of deity is discarded as impossible by the scientists of modern physics. There also exists there exists also another category of cruel loa called Mondong Musai. They have a predilection for dog's blood. They bite the tip of the ear to suck up the blood. Some exotic lore are also known in the Haitian mythology. Some constitute a puzzle from the psychotronic point of view. Miss Charlotte and Denclin Sin are vaudoos of white French origin. Non-educated peasants in channeling state with these dark matter entities speak a perfect French like that of a Sorbonne professor. Is it a phenomenon like glossolalia? Milo Rigaud in La Tradition Vaudou, 1953, notes that their manifestations are very rare and depicts Miss Charlotte as a punk, punctilious, demanding personality who wants a rigid observation of her rituals. Ding Ding Clinson, a male Vaudou, speaks a terrible Creole with his foreign accent. He usually pours the tafia alcohol offered to him in his pocket, and the liquid vanishes instantaneously. Many Haitians believe that the country's underdevelopment is the result of neglect of Vaudoons who led the blacks to independence. The neglect is a sin at the national level. According to Henry Claude Innocent in an article published in Le Nouvelliste, the Makaya cult was the power behind the revolution of the slaves at Saint Domingue. The Makaya cult, or cult of Simbi Makaya, is a syncretism of war rituals coming from Rada, Petro, Bizango, or Bisagos, Mandeng, Nago, and Congo traditions. That selection was initiated by Don Pedro, or Padre Jean, and completed by Macandal, a Hugan Maroon, who in 1757 started the first major revolt that led to independence. Revolt that eventually led to independence. In the Innocent article, the Dahomean tradition is called Guinea, and the Bantu tradition is labeled Makaya. He sees a perpetual struggle between the two conceptions of Vodou. The Guinea is the benevolent, benign, esoteric version of or right hand Vodou. The Makaya is the violent, demonic version of left hand Vodou. Toussaint Louverture was supposed to be an adept of the Guinean, Guinean culture. And Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the first Haitian emperor after independence, was an adept of the Simbi Makaya cult. After Louverture's deportation in France, the Makaya team had a convocation at Arcahé in the area named Bois Caiman. Following the Bakongo rituals, they created an egregore or conglomerate of dark matter entities, chain of voodoo spirits, of the type of T. Jean Petro, Crabinet, Marinette, Pierre Cheche, Simbiyan Kita, Mondonge Moussaï, and Prince Zandor. That egregor demanded human and animal sacrifices or a lot of blood. According to Innocent, the Makaya team offered a slave master on the sacrificial altar to the Petro Congo egregor. The conglomerate of dark entities was supposed to be dissolved after independence by a special national ritual. That conglomerate of dark entities was supposed to be dissolved after independence by a special national ritual of thanksgiving, but it was not done. The conglomerate persists up to the present time in Haiti and continues to produce havoc and mayhem among the Haitians. Innocent recalls in his article An Esoteric Rule or Akhenaten Law by which the quantum connection of multiple dark matter entities or axionic forces is modulated into a stronger and stronger destructive force as time goes on. Innocent recalls in his article An Esoteric Rule or Akhenaten Law by which the quantum connection of multiple dark matter entities or axionic forces is modulated into a stronger and stronger destructive force as time goes on. In 1805, the Emperor Dessalines sacrificed French men and mulattoes to the bloodthirsty egregore under the pretext of preventing a return of French military power to the island after the 1804 independence. It was then that the mulatto branch of the Makaya team decided to murder Dessalines to save their skin and take control of the egregore. With the help of white European sorcerers, the mulatto wing took control of the Bizango section of the egregore. In 1806, in the house of Alexandre Pétion, who later became the first president of the Black Republic, Dessalines was poisoned and then cut into pieces, according to some occult prescriptions. According to Innocent, the souls of dark matter doubles of Dessalines and Christophe are still prisoners of the Bizango section of the egregore. Apollyon type of destruction of destroyer, the Bizango, under the dominance of the former Franchise, Frenchmen, blacks, and mulattoes in colonial time, led by the Pétion, waged an open war against the adepts of the right-hand Vodou or Guinea cult with the pretext of anti-superstition campaign. The Guinea cult happened to be that of the majority of the Haitians. The non-Bizango section of the nefarious conglomerate or egregore remained under the control of a black leadership and is known as the Champuel Makanda wing. It was scattered in small rival groups across the country like mafia cartels. Thus, the competition for the presidency or the power in Haiti is, according to the author, a competition between the rival groups Bizango and Champuel Makanda. The simplified version of the Marxist Leninist of class struggle cannot by itself explain the complexities of the Haitian political arena. Francois Duvalier was one of the few presidents who managed to have a truce between the warring parties or cartels of the Makaya and even obtain their allegiance, thus forcing the mulatto Bizango wing to submit to his power. However, Duvalier remained the enemy of the independent group or force, namely the vast majority of the Guinea people, the farmers or peasants. After the overthrow, After the overthrow of Jean-Claude Duvalier in 1986, it was rumored that the overdue service of Thanksgiving at the national level to disband the egregore conglomerate of bloodthirsty Vaudoons was going to be held, but the military was opposed to it. Thus, the country is still in the grip of the Simbi Makaya aggregate of Chonian dark matter entities. The egregore is opposed to any foreign initiative in Haiti that would benefit the majority because it sees any outside intervention as a colonialist intervention. Today, after a second military intervention in Haiti in 1994 by foreign powers, United States and United Nations, that eliminated the Haitian army and brought back the exiled president Jean-Bertrand Aristide, one would like to know what is the reaction of the axionic egregore. There was no death among the invaders. A new election was performed, and another president from the middle class blacks is in charge. The bourgeoisie or mulatto Bizango branch wants to cooperate with him, but a section of the black mass seems to oppose his policy of free market and privatization of the economy. Is it opposition from a cartel of the Champuel Makanda wing? This is an extreme presentation of the Vodou alternate reality in Haiti. The underdevelopment in Haiti has many other causes. The embargo by the foreign powers of France, England, and America after our independence in 1804, the neglect of the black mass by a dominant oligarchy, the prejudice of color, pitting mulatto against blacks, the politics of division, entertained by foreign powers inside of Haiti, the rise of Cacoism, Makutism, Zinglinduism, guerrilla or gangs, the destabilizing force of the army, now defunct, the desertification and erosion of the land, the destruction of marine life on our littoral, just to mention a few. The Dahomean syncretism, that is, the infrastructure of the Haitian Vodou, has also incorporated some aspect of the Catholic Church in their religion. Nanabuluku and Mawu, the creators, have been identified with the Almighty of the Christianity, the Bon Dieu. The Bon Dieu is still a distant personality manifesting himself as an immanent justice in everyday life. But when a black outsmarts another black, God laughs. The Haitian Almighty has a sense of humor. Many icons of the church are used to impersonate Loa or Vodouns, such as Legba, Ogu, Erzuli, Dambala, Aida, and Agwe. Lucifer has become one of the Loa. The Magi of Christmas has been incorporated as Vodouns in the Congo pantheon. Many of the Catholic sacraments have an equivalent in Vodou rituals. Baptism is loaded with occult meaning. The host is used for Wanga or Nkisi, or is used in a blasphemous way by the Zandoric group. The hymns of the Christian religion, the Pater Noster and Ave Maria, are used in Vodou ceremonies. Blessed water enters into the composition of many Wanga, or is used to dispel bad omen or to get rid of bad spirits. Blessed water enters into the composition of many Wanga, or is used to dispel bad omens or to get rid of bad spirits. The cross is a very important artifact in the paraphernalia. The official church in Haiti has waged a destructive war against Vodou in Haiti, starting in 1939 under the presidency of the mulatto Elie Lescott. Prior to that, some unsuccessful attempt at destroying the symbiosis happened in 1896 by Monsignor Kersuzan, a white man, and also in 1913. In the early 1940s, the church applied religious sanctions against Catholics who attended or participated actively or passively in a Vodou ceremony. Soon they obtained the support of the police with the approval of the president, Lescott, in their iconoclastic war against the African Haitian religion. The bishops closed and destroyed the Humfors and burned thousands of artifacts so that very few asotors, the celebrated mammoth drums, survived the carnage. However, Vodou was more than a religion or set of rituals. It is a worldview encompassing an alternate or non ordinary reality for the mass of believers. They fought back to regain their identity by going into religious strikes. Furthermore, the upper classes did not approve of the overzealous persecutions of the Vaudouists by the clergy. The media and public opinion were very critical, so that the government was obliged to remove his support of the campaign. On February 22nd, 1942, shots were fired inside a church at the Delmar suburb, where a priest was starting a series of anti-Vodou homilies. According to Monsignor Robert, a massive backlash occurred. The populace returned en masse to the Vodou sanctuary. Under the presidency of Dumarsais Estime, Vodou was out of the closet. Many intellectuals in search of the African roots, their negritude, embraced the new orientation and praised the new regime. Under the presidency of François Duvalier, the Vodou religion received credentials, as Duvalier himself was an adept and an ethnologist who worked to maintain the African heritage. Duvalier himself as a good Catholic. Duvalier presented himself as a good Catholic. This is an accordance with the tenet that to be a genuine voodooist, one must be a good Catholic. Interesting. This is an accordance with the tenet that to be a genuine voodooist, one must be a good Catholic. The adept who offers sacrifices to the Loa and is possessed by them has no quarrel in responding to the Saturday night call of the voodoo drums and to attend Mass the next morning in the Catholic Church. Basically, the Loa or Vodouns occupy the same position as the saints and angels in the Catholic spiritual or alternate reality. Thus, the Vodouist will always be faithful to the church without deserting the company of his family Loa. In northern Haiti, the Loa are called saints by analogy, not by assimilation. Mm. Thus, all the saints of the church can be seen as Loa, but not all the Loa can be seen as saints. Such as the cases of Lucifer and other demons, Loa, Tijan Zandor, Marinette, or the Simbi Makaya Egregor. Voodoo rituals are often preceded by prayers of thanksgiving to God and Catholic saints. In front of an altar with candles and icons, the priest Hugan or priestess, and priest or priestess Mambo, assisted by the initiates Hunsi, begins the service by reciting Pater Noster, Ave Maria Confiteor, Ave Maria Confiteor, and hymns to the Virgin Mary and the saints. The call to the Vaudoons comes after. The rationale behind the Christian preliminaries is that the Catholic liturgy is a good induction of axionic activity. It facilitates interaction between the visible reality and the shadow matter reality. Where are we? Where are we? The mixture of the two religions encompass the liturgical calendars as well. The festival The festivals of the Loa often coincide with that of the Catholic patron saints' days. The festival of the Magi on January 6th is syncretized with ceremonies to honor Vaudoons of the Congo Pantheon. During the Lent period, the Humfo are closed and no service is offered to the Loa. And sometimes the artifacts on the altar or the sanctuary, such as the govi, urns containing spirits, stones, symbols of spirits, and inkisi condenses, are covered with a veil like the icons in the Catholic Church. On All Saints' Day, the Gedes, Vaudoons of Hades or the Netherworld, manifest themselves in the cities and in the countryside, dressed in black and purple, in superposition state with their adepts. Christmas Eve is one of the most spectacular festivals in the realm of Vaudou alternate reality. Wait, where am I? I forgot where I'm at. Oh, Christmas Eve is one of the most spectacular festivals in the realm of Vaudou alternate reality. Alfred Metro has given us some vivid descriptions of the ceremonies as conducted by the city dwellers and the peasants in the countryside. The festivals aim at facilitating good luck throughout the coming year, dissipating bad omens, and creating the atmosphere catalyzing the production of the magic powder used in all sorts of therapy. The Christmas ritual is dominated by the Petro or Congo Loa, shadow matter entities specializing in dark magic. Composite states are produced with Jean Danto, Prenzando, Loa Criminal, Loa Brise, Simbi, Simba, Malulu, Kita, Grand Bois, Maître Cimetière Bumba, Gede, Loko Atisu, a wise and subdued personality, and some entities of the Rada pantheon, Legba, Agwe, and Marasa, divine twins, Dambala Wedo. We have already called attention to a parallelism between Vodouist and Hinduist sacred places. That is, locations where the paths of the divine and that of the human cross. The Mandira, waiting place, or Divalaya, house of God, are the terms used for the Hindu temple. And Tirtha, Stana, is the word for pilgrimage centers. In Vodouism, the Humfor is the waiting place or temple where the Loa or Vodouns descend and partake of human offerings and where people can be with the shadow entities. The sacred pillar of the Mandira corresponds to the Potomita of the Humfor. The Loa descend in the realm of the adepts through the sacred pillar. Dance, music, and art are integral parts of the rituals in the Humfor and the Mandira. The pilgrimage centers that are most popular in Haiti are So Do and Ville Bonheur. They are parallels to the Hindu Tirtha, such as um, Badrina in the northern Himalayas, Puri in the east, Ramesvaram in the south, and Dvarka in the west. People travel to these centers because they believe that these holy places radiate sacredness for the benefit of the adepts. They are usually located on the tops of mountains or deep in forests. The pilgrimage center of Sodo is a breathtaking scene where the Vodouists live with exhilaration in the syncretism between Catholicism and Vodou. A river named La Tombe or La Tombe runs across a plateau, reaches a cliff, and falls into a beautiful cascade in the midst of a luxuriant forest. There is a mist, there a mist rises from the foaming and billowing waters, forms iridescent droplets on the ferns, bushes, grass, and the giant and mysterious trees. There is the idyllic abode of the gods, or Loa, particularly Dambada Wedo, his spouse Aida Wedo, Gram Bozin, and other aquatic deities. July is the sacred month for the pilgrimage. It coincides with the period of vacation when children can accompany their parents to the rendezvous with the gods. They arrive en masse from the four corners of the Republic and immediately rush to expose their bodies to the freshness and power of the magical waters. From time to time, pilgrims are seized into composite state with shadow matter entities. Dambala is easily recognized by his snake-like behavior. The faithful gather around the possessed and talk to him with respect, shake his hand, and ask for special benefactions or favors. In the victim, in, in the vicinity of the waterfall, a giant tree called figuier, is a repository for the Vodou. The pilgrims place small candles between the roots and attach to its branches some woolen cords they have worn around their waist for some time. Others collect a handful of soil in a handkerchief. They are aware of the ubiquitous nature of the Vodou and of the principle at work in the quantum connection between the Loa, the tree, the soil, and objects that have been in contact with them. Saint-Do is also the abode of many aquatic deities and a site of pilgrimage for Saint John and Notre Dame du Carmel or Virgin Mary. It is reported that the Virgin had made an apparition in the early part of this century above a palmist palm tree in a wooden area located a few kilometers from the cascade. That tree became the object of special veneration, and had the power to heal the sick who prayed to the Virgin. The tree was cut down on the order of a bishop opposed to that syncretism between Christianity and Vodouism. He even removed the roots of the tree as the pilgrims continued their veneration to that part of the palmiste. The Virgin retaliated, it is said, by causing the bishop to lose both his legs in an accident. Facing the objections of the people, the Catholic clergy finally gave in and recognized the place as a pilgrimage center for St. John and the Virgin Mary. A church was erected in the area. On the festival day of the Virgin, huge crowds attended Mass in that temple. After their ablution in the sacred waters, in company of the Loa, the pilgrims joined the procession of parade of the Virgin statue in Hamlet. In accepting this mixture of the two faiths, the church expects in time to eliminate the Vodou part in the same manner it has discarded the pagan aspects of Christmas, Halloween, and the like. But that does not seem to be happening. The Vodouist knows that he is a very good Catholic. And even some of the Vodouns themselves are good Catholics and go to Eucharist by possessing some of the adept in the church at communion time. This is facilitated by carrying a stone that has been loaded with the entity force field. That fractal information diskette allows the shadow matter entity to enter into a composite state with the adept and receive communication. To deeply understand the mystery of the superposition state between the shadow matter entities and the person of the adept, one has to consider the ontological components of the human personality as revealed by the Vodou worldview. Human nature is a tripartite or pluralist, composed of a visible body or corps cadavre, a soul or invisible body made of shadow matter called gros bon ange, and a spiritual part called Tiborange, whose nature is most likely that of a boson. That boson returns to the creator after death. This pluralist conception of the human being is common to civilizations that arose from the Neolithic Sahara culture, such as ancient Egypt and its cosmogonies, the Dahomean and the Bantu ontological tenets. In Egypt, we have seen the Ka, or immortal principle, that rejoins the divinity in heaven after death. The Ba, which is the body's corporeal soul. The Zed, or Ket, the physical, mortal body that decomposes after death. There is a fourth component, the shadow of the being, the visible expression of the visible express. Where am I? There is a fourth component, the shadow of the being, the visible expression of the other three. The visible expression of the other three. 1 second. These four elements must be united in the afterlife to reconstitute an eternal being in the dwellings of the gods. Let's go back and read these four components. So the Ka, which is the immortal principle that rejoins the divinity in heaven after death, the Ba, which is the body's corporeal soul, the Zed or Het, the physical mortal body that decomposes after death. Let me see. Ka, immortal principle. Okay, I'm with you. The Ba, which is the body's corporeal soul, and then the Z, which is the physical body. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. There is a fourth component, the shadow of the being. All right, the visible expression of the other three. These four elements must be united in the afterlife to reconstitute an eternal being in the dwellings of the gods. Plato and Aristotle, who came very late to civilization, followed the Black Egyptians' pluralist conception very closely. In West Africa, the Dahomean have the Dahomean have the Semedo, the individual shadow matter soul, the Selido, or wave function soul that returns to Mawu, the creator, after death, the Joto, or ancestral soul, and the visible physical body. Okay, let's see. In West Africa, the Dahomean have the Semedo. So Semedo is individual shadow matter soul. So we got individual shadow matter soul, the Celido, or the wave function soul. Shadow matter soul, wave function soul, um, the Joto, or the ancestral soul, and the visible physical body. Okay. So it's the same. Egypt and the West Africans have the same four components there, which is interesting. All right, let's get back to this. The Bantu or Bakongo conception presents the Moyo, individual dark matter soul, the Umfumu Kutu, the or pure energy soul, and the visible physical body. One of the puzzling questions that come to mind is how those cultures came to know of the tripartite nature of man. An answer may be seen in the experience of William Bullman as he was practicing out of body explorations. In his book, Adventures Beyond the Body, while he was floating in the Fermion, Semedo body, he discovered another self, a boson Celido body. The feel of the two non-material bodies was dramatically different. The Semitic body was a denser was denser when compared. Semitic. Interesting. Semitic. The Semitic body was denser when compared to the lightness of the second energy body, the bosonic Celido. Bowman realized that the dense invisible matter body was an energy duplicate of the physical, an axionic clone, while the second one was made of a finer vibratory energy, that is, the boson of the duplicate fermion. William Bowman. Let me get that book real quick. Let me see what dude is talking about over here. William Bowman. Semitic body. Let me get that. Yeah. Hey yo. Okay. Where are we? The dense invisible matter body. Okay, no. Are we that far? The feel of the two non material bodies was dramatically different. The Semitic body was denser when compared to the lightness of the second energy body, the bosonic Celido. Bowman realized that the dense invisible matter body was an energy duplicate of the physical, an axionic clone, while the second one was made of a finer vibratory energy, that is, the boson of the duplicate fermion. It seems that in the 20th century CE, we are rediscovering the findings of prehistoric black Africans in the Sahara that were passed down to later generations of Ethiopians, Egyptians, Dahomeans, and Bantu. The composite nature of man is also found in Dagara worldview in Burkina Faso. Man's components consist of a visible body, which is an envelope, something we die in when we are born into our family. Then comes the body double or soul called Sie, made of invisible matter, axion, to which is associated a spirit of vibratory nature. In Dagara sacred knowledge, that vibratory spirit has two components or functions: water spirit or cool part, and fire spirit or hot part. They are also known as setting part and rising part. The water spirit or cool part produces perceptions and the interactions between the body nervous system and the axionic soul. The fire spirit or hot part triggers actions. Malidoma Some uses the term God instead of spirit. In Haiti, the shadow or fourth component of the Egyptian conception is also present not as a separate entity, but as the visual expression of the two souls. At death, the gros bon ange remains on earth and may become a protective spirit or tutelary vaudou for the family after some specific rituals, or a wandering obnoxious ghost or baka if no rituals are performed by the relatives. The pluralist nature of the human being can be seen as an intertwinement of multiple force fields and physical realities, visible and invisible. Modern science sees it only as no, only as physical chemical reactions coupled in recent years with a quantum dimension, as the principle of duality is finally accepted by all physicists or scientists. In the Dahomean conception, one of the components, the Joto, comes from an ancestor after his canonization as tutelary Vodun. That soul is reincarnated in his family or his clan. But this is not a reincarnation like that of the Hindu wheel of life or samsara. It is not a rebirth in a newborn or other creature. It is a superposition or composite state with another existing person, a member of the family or the clan. It is the shadow component of the ancestor, that invisible force field that enters into modulation with the body double of the individual, chosen to be the heirs of that spirit. It should be seen as a spiritual power reclaimed by the family. The second component of the individual is the semedo, or authentic soul of the person. It should be seen as a duplicate of the person in shadow matter. It reproduces all the functioning of the visible physical body with its trillions of cell connections and their physical, chemical, and wave function reactions. Coordinated signal processing and mental switching networks in the dimension of shadow matter. It is a clone of the individual in invisible matter. In the development of the individual from conception to adulthood, it grows and develops simultaneously. It is not the mind or consciousness of the individual. In our neo-vitalist vision, we recognize the existence of consciousness at all levels of reality, from master force, particles, atoms, and animals. It is a double made of invisible particles that coexists and participates intimately in the functioning of the visible physical body. It is not the soul that supposedly makes the physical body alive, although it can influence the body, the, and the body can influence it. What we commonly call mind or consciousness is different from axionic clone. In fact, the computer scientists are very close to the truth when they consider the mind like a parallel processing computer and consciousness simply the coordinated signal processing of individual agents or computer programs. In other words, the ordinary concept of soul and the scientific concept of consciousness is not something, is nothing. Okay, let's take that again. In other words, the ordinary concept of soul and the scientific concept of consciousness is nothing but the resultant of physical chemical reactions described by scientists as brain convergence zones, mental switching stations, or coordinated signals processing. According to Francis Crick, author of The Astonishing Hypothesis, The Scientific Search for Soul, consciousness is somehow a byproduct of epiphenomenon of the simultaneous high frequency firing of neurons in different parts of the brain. It is the intertwining of these frequencies. That produce consciousness. Rodolfo Linas, a neuroscientist at the New York University Medical School, thinks in the same direction and asserts that consciousness arises from coordinated and simultaneous electrical signals. Using a magnetoencephalogram, which indirectly measures electric currents from the brain, the researcher analyzes the electrical response to external stimuli. He observes a series of perfectly timed oscillations, that is, groups of cells jumping up and down simultaneously. He considers those oscillations as the basic building blocks of consciousness at our level. For Francis Crick, the astonishing hypothesis is a purely materialistic one, denying the existence of an hypothetical soul. This is the scientific viewpoint, that a person's mental activities are entirely due to the behavior of nerve cells, glial cells, and the atoms, ions, and molecules that make them up and influence them. Well known astronomer Carl Sagan presented Crick's work as a fascinating argument that consciousness and what has long been called the soul are now accessible to scientific investigation. Crick, 1994. The author of the astonishing hypothesis does not believe in the flimsy existence of a non incarnate soul. And if a soul exists, the most fascinating aspect of it will be that it is much easier to study when the visual system is fully understood. My own hypothesis can be seen as a materialistic one as well, although recognizing the existence of an axionic soul, of an axionic soul. This soul is not made of atoms or molecules, but of particles and their wave function. It is still physical in the manner of energy. For Crick, the correct way to conceptualize consciousness has not yet been found, but for us, consciousness is a quantum process that exists in the whole universe. It is manifested at all levels of the evolutionary ladder. At the level of the human primate, it takes the mode of neural networks. At the cellular level of the body, it takes that wonderful, bedazzling processing network that ends up in the quantum dimension. And the image or perception we experience is produced in concert with the shadow component. The author of the astonishing hypothesis has conceded that he does not know how the brain puts images or pictures together or creates perception. So the search goes on, and we are attempting to see what happens after the neurons fire the last electrical burst at the level of the cortex. However, in the Dahomean and Haitian reality, we exist simultaneously in different dimensions or parallel universes. And we have consciousness also in both realities or dimensions. When the physical, visible body dies or decomposes, we continue to be in existence in the parallel clone. In our current state of existence are two fields of information amplitude, the physical, visible one, and its coordinated signal processing with its wave function, and the invisible matter clone with its quantum expression work together in the production of sensation perception that gives us a grip on reality. Let us consider, for example, the sensation perception of vision. The eyes are the camera like apparatus that open on the world and receive light from an external source through lens and other media. The light reaches the retina and reproduces an inverted image or picture of the object. At that level, light energy is transformed into electricity that travels through the optic nerves, through the brain, and finally reaches the occipital or visual cortex of the brain. It is then that we see the external object. The object is seen like on a screen that we can describe by analogy, like a television screen. But the big question is, where is the mental screen? The visual cortex itself is not the screen. The visual cortex is a coordinated system signal processing zone that projects the information on a field that recreates the external object as a mental picture. We suggest that the field screen is either the body's double, the semi-do of the Dahomean, that dark matter clone, or the quantum dimension of all particles or atoms that form the body. The image or picture is the product of interactions between the firing neurons and the field. And this is a quantum process. The image of a tree, a mountain, or a room is larger than than a human visual cortex. And we can increase or decrease the size of the object perceived at will through our visual imagination, through our visual imagination. The mental image that appears on the field screen is not always what is shown is not always what is just in front of us. While driving on the highway on my way to my office, I am surveying the space before and after me. I am watching the traffic, the speeders, the slowpokes, and the cops on the radars. But from time to time, I don't see all that. On my visual field screen appear Other things or persons, such as a picture of my office with entrance, waiting room, secretarial quarters, examining rooms, and waiting patients, they are not in front of me. My brain reconstructs them and projects them on my mental field screen. The picture of the highway is also there, but from time to time it is overshadowed by the interfering picture of my office. The intertwining of the activities in the physical body, the nervous system or the brain in particular, and in the semi-do field screen is very vivid in the process of recall and memory. In recalling my living room while I am in my study behind my desk, my field screen exhibits the objects with their different colors and shades of colors, their size, height, location, and disposition. I can see a red carpet, a green vase. Some electromagnetic transaction is taking place in my brain to produce on the field screen the red and the green color. I can also recall the ringing of the entrance doorbell very clearly and the highly seasoned filet mignon prepared by my wife. I am salivating, but the food is not in front of me. There is a case where This is a case where the brain recreates sensation perception, transfers them to the semido or axionic field screen, and the latter in turn influences the visible physical body and makes it salivate. Um, in preparing a dissertation, my intelligence is exploiting all the signal processing networks of my core cadavre or physical body, and its parallel self called gros bonange by the Haitians. In composing that dissertation, all my five senses are open on the world, but they are not perceiving the surrounding reality with its colors, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. I am completely engulfed into the internal information processing network and their interactions with the dark matter parallel clone. I am creating a new reality, the reality of my dissertation. However, from time to time, I may reorient my consciousness towards the external world and hear a passing plane, or hear my wife yelling my name to come down and kill a bee, or smell the aroma of my cup of tea. In dream sessions, my information processing network, IPN, and the Semido are having a field day together without the control of the awakened consciousness. Occasionally, during the REM, rapid eye movement period of sleep, they produce vivid movies or dreams. The content of these dreams has very different meanings in accordance with the culture of the individual, his state of health or sickness, physical or mental. The Freudian psychologists or psychiatrists, dreams, for Freudian psychologists or psychiatrists, dreams are merely activities of the subconscious mind and they help unravel the conflicts that cause mental illness. In the alternate, non ordinary reality of the Vodun Sea or depths, dreams are the expression of the gros bon ange activities together with the physical body or alone because it can leave the solid body during sleep and wander around. This is a variant of out of body travel. Dreams are also portents of good or bad omens. In the Haitian culture, dreaming of a wedding is a portent of death for some people. During a dream, the boundary constraints are eased off on the quantum activities or functions of the person's components. Through the principle of ubiquity, the individual can travel in the past and in the future and have premonitory dreams or retrocognitive dreams. In hallucinations, disturbances in the information processing network cause the field screen to produce images or perceptions the rational consciousness cannot override. In hallucinations, disturbances in the information processing network cause the field screen to produce images or perceptions the rational consciousness cannot override. The shadow matter field screen brings forth pictures in three dimensions, hologram pictures that the conscious mind cannot dismantle easily. In the phantom limb syndrome, following the amputation of a leg or arm, for example, the individual from time to time experiences pain, itching, or other sensations in the absent limb. According to Vilayamor Ramachandran from the University of California at San Diego, the brain carries within it a mental map of the body, a well formed sense of where every part is in relation to in relation to every other. Even when a limb is gone, its place on the mental map remains, and the neurons formerly responsible for processing sensations from it occasionally fire at random. The brain also attempts to make up for the deficit physically by perhaps by sprouting new sets of connections. Because neurons that process information from the arm are near those that handle the face, for example, these new connections can cause a blindfolded patient to think a gentle touch on the face is really a touch on a missing fingertip. Reorganization can occur in a period of weeks. After the amputation of a limb, the individual's double remains intact. The information network of the shadow matter clone is not amputated and it continues to function in the usual manner, but it is functioning like WIMPs, weakly interacting with the rest of the body. From time to time, that feeble interaction produces a vivid sensation, perception, such as pain or itching. Does it do that by reactivating of a memory process, information stored in its processing network? Or is it like a dream, the expression of the shadow body transforming its ghost like particles into photons and other particles of ordinary matter? Does that tell us that one day we will unravel the secret that will allow us to regenerate the amputated limb by using its shadow matter double? Is this also one of the mechanisms by which faith healing takes place? We have already postulated that these two types of bodies, have the capability of influencing each other through their quantum link. Faith is in the middle of these interactions. The body double has the ability to do whatever the visible body can do without having the molecular structure of the flesh, and thus the decaying or decomposition of the corps cadavre. Furthermore, the molecules that store memory have to transform the information into electron, photon, other particle and wave functions in order to present them to the screen field of consciousness. That shadow matter field is essentially wave function, energy, or quantum that can transmute into ordinary atoms in proper conditions. What our visible matter transmit information at the electronic or quantum level, and the invisible matter is closer in presence, in essence, to the wave function or wave photon reality. At death, where all function cease in the visible body, there is separation between the matter and its double. The double leads an independent existence. It does not go far away immediately. Just after death, it is still in the surrounding area and witnesses everything that takes place in the house. Its existence is that of a spectator, something like a person watching a movie. That spectator is following the actions very closely, but he cannot interfere with the actions of the protagonists. The soul is interacting very weakly with the visible matter, that is, wife, children, relatives, and the surroundings. At that stage, it is called a ye, shadow, or ghost, by the Dahomean. It is now free to live fully, a Quiffian existence, that is, in quantum dimension, with all the known paradoxes or principles. For example, it is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It can communicate through the panpsychic field with another living person that okay? It can communicate through the panpsychic field with another living person that has a psychic predisposition. A mother, for example, can suddenly feel that something is happening to a dead son or daughter far away. During the wake, Haitians, like Africans, believe that the Ye is still there in the surroundings, and they must show their affection and appreciation of him by wailing and weeping, saying good things about him, and entertaining him with songs and drums. But the most important thing after the wake is to send him away to the grave or in the abode of the dead. because he is dangerous at that time. He would like to take with him the loved ones, so the surviving spouse, children, and relatives close to him dress in black because black has the property of keeping shadow entities at a distance. They use other artifacts, talisman or nkisi, to keep away the ghost or ye, such as the tracing of an indigo cross on the forehead or carrying a clove of garlic. Eventually, the shadow clone may dissipate into oblivion totally by the process of degradation of energy if it does not receive boosts from the visible world or from another dimension, such as the eternal dimension. The family rituals, dernière prière, the post-mortem homage, veneration by friends, peers, societies, or country, constitute boosts for the soul. The family rituals or those of a Vodou society are very important for the existence of the Semedo. Where am I? Of the Semedo. Without proper rituals, the soul may be transformed into a malevolent ghost or baka, or may fade away into oblivion. The existence and power of Vodouns or Loa depend on the living people as far as the sensible world is concerned. Without the ritual boosts, the shadow double is victim of the law of entropy and degrades to a very elemental form force or energy, rejoining the universal pool of gravity inherent to the 86% of dark matter in the cosmos. The near death experiences reported floridly in the 20th century by people of different walks of life illustrate the interactions between the physical visible body and its shadow counterpart. The out of body experience recalled by patients who sustained cardiac arrest while they were being revived by CPR techniques is probably related to the quasi separation between dark matter and visible matter. The soul, like a standby companion, is observing everything in its surrounding and elsewhere, to some extent due to the principle of ubiquity. It is observing the resuscitation team in their effort to bring the corps cadavre back to life. Paradoxically, the soul is in and out of the body at the same time, enjoying its wave function reality to the utmost. But it is more out than in. However, if the CPR is successful, it is pushed back forcefully into the visible physical body. The medical establishment considers the near death experience and its out of body phenomenon as a form of hallucination or dream in which the quantum reality of the human being may play a part. But with the concept of the semido, we might be one step closer to a holistic reality. We have seen in the phantom limb syndrome some aspects of the hologramic nature of the semido. The amputation of the visible limb does not cut its clone, so that the information network is still active in the parallel limb. In case of organ transplant, we may have another illustration of the fractal nature of the body double. It has been reported that a patient, after receiving a kidney transplant from a donor who was an alcoholic, began to experience a craving for booze and fast food items. He could not understand why he was having such a bizarre desire for things he never enjoyed until he learned more about the deceased person. From the vitalist standpoint, the physical transplant carries with it a fractal portion of the donor's dark matter clone. This fraction brings to the new person its store of information network and enters into transaction with the new body soul complex. At times, the transplant signal processing network overrides the receiver's own network. This is a minor form of composite or superposition state compared to the dramatic crisis of possession that we will consider later. What is the destiny of the shadow matter semido or gros bon ange after the separation at death? In the African Haitian reality, the immediate family and relatives of some of the deceased, or his home for society, take steps to ensure smooth passage to the nether world. At the appointed time, some specific rituals are required, and it is the duty of the family or Vodou society to perform them. If the deceased was an initiate or husikanzo vodusi, a ritual called desunin must be performed. It can be done before or after burial. It consists in the separation of the protector loa or metet from the body of the devotee. From the initiation rites, a symbiotic relationship has been established between them. And at death, this link must be broken asunder. This will allow us to speak of the other souls of the pluralist human person. Another basic constituent of the human person is the Selido in Dahomean worldview. It corresponds to the Tibonage of the Haitian culture. It is a psychic parcel coming from Mawu, the creator. It is a fractal force that gives awareness of good and evil and is a portent of imminent justice. This soul is called Se, according to Mercier and Mao Poil. It is also seen as a vital force that sustains all other existing forces in space-time. At death, it returns to Mawu, who is the Alpha and Omega of all things. It does not go into judgment before the throne of God like in Christian eschatology. It does not receive any reward or punishment. It is in itself a network of information to humans and to Mawu as far as God or bad deeds are concerned. No cult or rituals are offered to the Se or Selido. What is the nature of the Selido? It is made of invisible matter like the Semedo. It is a finer form of wave particle. Is it an entity, novel variant of the original master force issued by fiat from the immanent God? At any rate, we do know something of its function. It is also a network of information and energy, and as such, it enters into interactions with the complex physiology of the pluralist human being. From the supersymmetry theory, it could be seen as boson, or pure energetic counterpart of the shadow matter fermion, or fermion. In essence, there exist three basic constituents of the human being: the corps cadavre, the visible body, and its two souls, semedo and selido. They are always present in a normal human entity. However, that cannot be said of the Joto, the ancestral soul that can be reincarnated only with proper conditions. Otherwise, it can be lost to the family or the clan. The same can be said of another soul called Sepoli or Poli in Dahomean culture. This soul is considered, no, this soul is acquired only through Fa initiation. The same can be said of another soul called Sepoli or Poli in Dahomean culture. This soul is acquired only through Fa initiation. It is reserved only for men as head of family. Women and children cannot have it. However, if a woman becomes the head of a family, she will be considered like a man and will receive the Sepoli. What is the nature of the Sepoli? It is most likely a shadow entity, a Vodun, that enters into composite state with an individual through Fa initiation. The word Fa stands for Ifa or Ife, which was an important center of Black African culture for hundreds of years, starting about 1000 AD. It was the cradle of Yoruba civilization in West Africa. The Fa initiation allows the individual to see the future. That initiation does not seem to exist in Haiti. Haitian Vodou used primarily a Bantu or Petro system of divination, such as the Gwembo. However, the processes by which the Sepoli is joined to the other souls of the individual is identical to the crisis of possession by a Loa or Vodou. It is the interference of the Vodou network of information with that of an individual. Thus, in the case of the Joto or the Sepoli, we are facing a symbiotic relationship that can be permanent or temporary during the lifetime of the adept. Where is exactly the abode of the dead? According to the adepts, it is either on earth, inside the earth, or Chonian realm, in the sea, or in the sky. In quantum parlance, it is an ubiquitous place with some preferred convergence zones, such as the subaquatic and subterranean locations, the heavens, and the other, solar systems, or other planets of our own solar systems are not the places of predilection. Even the hierarchy of the heavenly pantheon do not claim to be beyond the sun or the moon. There is no Venusian or Martian among them. They don't come with far fetched tales like the occupants of a UFO. However, that ubiquitous abode can be seen as a parallel universe of dark matter sharing our space time. There are also some similarities between the Egyptian concept of the netherworld or that of the Dahomean. The, initi- the itinerary of the Semidor or the Gros Bonnage consists of a long trail leading to the river Azile. In order to cross the water is a barge, a toll. In a barge, a toll must be paid to the ferryman. This toll is of silver. Again, the road leads to another river, the Gudu, and the fee for the crossing is paid in tobacco. Here, we can see the analogy with Charon, the boatman who ferried the spirits of the dead across the river Styx, and Acheron to Hades in Greek mythology, which is derived from the black Egyptian cosmogonies. After the crossings of those rivers, the Semidor arrives at a mountain and climbs to its top to pay another toll of loincloth. Beyond that mountain is another river. Wait, where am I? Beyond that mountain is another river, the Selu, which is a resting zone, a port of call, where the traveling soul must wait 1 to 3 years for some rituals to be performed by the family or the society in order to cross the river and enter into the abode of the dead ancestors. If the rituals are not performed, the Semedo or Ye is transformed into an obnoxious ghost or baka or zombie. The zombie should not be confused with the chemical zombie, which is a living person maintained in a state of submission and slavery by a specific concoction of drugs or poisons. The parallel universe of the axionic Semedo or Ye is divided into a series of pyramids. At the top of each pyramid reigns a Towiyo, the founder of the clan, a Nephilim like individual, born of the union of, of a supernatural being, and a woman who has been deified. Below him are other Voduns of the family tree, the newcomers and the non deified souls occupy the last steps of the pyramid. Thus, the hierarchy scales down from associate Towiyo, Tovodu, Tohosu, monster newborns, guardians of the Chonian doors, the spirits of twins, Dosu, Dosa, to the new deified Loa. Another important aspect of the destiny of the individual in the afterlife is the fact that his position is determined by his economic status, not by his good or bad deeds. There is no karma influence. The wealth of the person or of his family will allow an elaborate funeral. The more stupendous, the better, in order to occupy good standing in the netherworld. On the Egyptian side of the eschatology, the tomb of Tutankhamun is very revealing. However, there is a precariousness associated with that modus operandi. The post-mortem reality of the soul is too dependent on the choice of the surviving members of the family and their willingness to perform the rituals. The shadow clone is seeing boundary constraints imposed on its existence by quantum determinations of other people. At death, it is facing the duality of saint and baka. Only a ritual can resolve that indeterminacy. The initiation rituals are supposed to be guarantees of salvation or post-mortem happiness. If the family does not have the means to perform the rituals or wants to ignore them altogether, the temple's clergy the temple's clergy, Hugan and Husi, will perform them on behalf of the deceased. But what happens when Humfor are destroyed or the adepts or devotees change religion or become Protestant, for example? The soul will be lost in limbo. In ordinary circumstances, the Desunin ritual is performed. It is like an act of exorcism, separating the lower or Vodou entity from the Semedo. In that ceremony, the wave function nature of the entities are illustrated, as well as their fractal essence. We know that the invisible matter clone must leave the body after death, and it is done in a progressive manner. Before its complete departure, a fractal portion is collected and placed in a govi or urn under the forms of pieces of nails or hair. The Hugan or priest summons the head lower, Metet, to enter into composite state once more with the deceased. And when this is done, the cadaver shakes and the Hugan performs the exorcism by sacrificing a live chicken. He sprinkles the head of the deceased with the chicken blood and asks the Loa to leave the body and enter into this deceased sacred necklace. That necklace is also placed inside the Govi. In Haiti, that Govi is the same one that during the adept's first initiation had stored some fractal portion of his shadow matter. This Govi is usually kept in a secure place in the home for or at home, away from the malevolent actions of Boko or dangerous vaudoons. Thus, any actions or rituals performed on the Govi and its content will benefit the clone in the abode of the dead or whatever or wherever it is by quantum connection. It is also interesting to see that in the Govi, the quantum link is maintained between the shadow matter of the Loa and that of the Gros Bon Ange. The presence of the Bakongo in Haiti have brought interesting variants in the postmortem status and destination of the individual. The Bantu vision, like that of the Dahomean, presents a pluralist nature of human beings. The Semedo corresponds to Moyo of the Bakongo, that is the Haitian Gros Bon Ange. The Selido is the Mfumu Kutu or Tibonange. The latter returns to the creator at death, being a parcel of Nzambi, the Bondie. The Moyo Semedo at death goes to the world of the ancestors, which is located in the subaquatic region named Kumasa. The underwater abode of the surviving souls constitutes a replica of the world of the livings, with villages, houses, farms, roads, and diverse types of wealth. In Haitian mythology, adults or preferential young children are sometimes abducted and led underwater to work as servants in the realm of the Vaudoons. They are released after varying lengths of time. Wait. In Haitian mythology, adults, or preferentially young children, are sometimes abducted and led underwater to work as servants in the realm of the Vaudoons. They are released after varying lengths of time, years or months or days, to rejoin their family above. The sojourn underwater makes their hair straight and their skin lighter. There are some analogies between the treatment of the Haitian abductees and that reported by Americans in recent years on the account of alien beings. There are some analogies between the treatment of the Haitian abductees and that reported by Americans in recent years by the account on the account of alien beings. It would appear that those so-called aliens are not really from other far advanced extraterrestrial civilizations, but are merely shadow matter entities from parallel universes. In the Bakongo eschatology, the fate of the deceased is dependent also on the actions of the living family members. In the Bakongo eschatology, the fate of the deceased is dependent also on the actions of the living family members. Their choice determines the post mortem reality of the deceased. The soul, Moyo, remains underwater until it is recuperated by the living to be deified or canonized as Loa or Vodou. That is a period of time that varies from 1 to 3 years and 1 day. At the appropriate time, the Hugan, Vodouno, and Husi, Vodousi, and family members go to the waters with the jars of Govi to perform the ceremony. It is a very expensive ritual called Wetemo na Dlo, literally removing dead spirits from the water. When the deceased is ready to come out of the water, he communicates his desire to a relative or offspring. He does that through dreams. If his request is not acted upon, he retaliates by attacking the person with diseases or failure in affairs. The shadow matter entities can even cause the person's death. This is a very interesting aspect of the soul nature. It is confined to an aquatic abode, but its wave function allows it to reach people beyond his restricted dwelling. It is here and everywhere at the same time, but still it has to deal with the boundary constraints, and its reality can be affected by the choice made by the living. In Haiti, the ritual is performed under a tent erected in the vicinity of the Humfo under a tree. The tent is a closed dwelling like a tabernacle giving access only to the Hugan or Mambo. Inside of it is placed a large basin or tub filled with water. The semedo or moyo of the deceased manifest themselves one by one in the water. They introduce themselves to the vodouno or priest. A conversation is held between the two. And finally, the priest announces that he is going to place the soul in a govi, the sacred jar. At the end of the ceremony, the Vodousi or Vuhusi carry the Govi into the Honfo and place them on the altar. A few days later, the Boule Zing ceremony is performed. The Govi are exposed to a sacred fire with the purpose of increasing the power of the forces that are the Semedo. 41 days later, the entities in the Govi are treated like Loa or Vodouns and receive food offerings that they share with the adepts. From now on, they are tutelary Vodouns and give protection to the members of their family. In Nigeria, the Vodouno or Vodunsi go directly into the river with the Govi and place them underwater. When the ceremony is completed, they leave them in the river and they are supposed to be teletransported into the sanctuary, which is far away. The Vodousi do not carry them, rather, they get into the temple by themselves. Another variant of post-mortem condition of the soul is reported by Dr. J.C. de Saint-Ville in Vaudou and Nevros. The blameless souls go to the Kutume, the abode of the dead, where they share a blissful life in the presence of Mawu, the creator, in the company of benevolent Vauduns. They still take interest in the affairs of men and play the same role as the saints in the Catholic Church and encourage the sacrifices in the Dahomean cult. The wicked soul, on the other hand, is sent back by Mawu to the earth in the body of an animal, a lowly station that reminds us of the samsaric wheel of life of Hindu and Buddhist. Thus, that soul has the opportunity to be reincarnated in successive lives until it reaches salvation or moksha or nirvana in the abode of Mawu. Dosenville does not tell us the nature of the surviving soul. Is it the semedo or the celido, or is it a composite like that of the reunion of the Ka, Ba, Zed, Shadow, or the Egyptian post-mortem state? The author does not tell us either if the abode is in heaven or in the subterranean world. But at any rate, it is somewhere in space-time or universal self, and not in eternity, the X dimension of Yahweh.